Sometimes we contemplate and ask ourselves certain questions like, why in the world didn't we consider that? Or how in the world did that happen? Or when did this not take place? And that's one of those questions that's been hitting me and many others throughout the world, just like thinking about it. When you hear the stats about sales teams and how lack of diverse they are. Now, on today's episode, we're going to talk about why you should consider building a diverse sales team. I have three amazing panelists, and these individuals come with some firepower. You're going to love this stuff, man. Buckle up. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist Podcast here on TSC TV on YouTube. I'm your host, Donald Kelly, the Sales Evangelist, and I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today. And on this episode, we have some amazing individual people I just absolutely love. Now, I'm going to rattle their name off so you can get a chance to be introduced to them. But the first one is Anita Nielsen, and Anita and I met at a conference back in 2019 when we actually could go to conference, and she just brought some amazing stuff. And last year she came on our podcast, and when we're thinking about this panel, I was like, Anita, by far, she's got to be one of the panelists. Anita also has a book called Beat the Bot, and it's all about humanizing this sales process, even though you have a tech organization, and I recommend you check it out. We're going to have a link in our show notes so you can take advantage of that. She's also a part of an organization called the National Association for Women Sales Professionals. Cynthia Barnes from our guest from yesterday. And Anita also leads an organization called LDK Advisory Services. And I highly recommend you go and check that out as well and some of the amazing things she's doing. Our next guest is Larry Long Jr. And Larry Long, again, you're going to hear this guy and you're going to say, Donald, he brings so much energy. He's like an atomic bomb when it comes to energy. And you're going to love Larry. Larry's the director of collegiate sales for an organization called Teamworks. And again, another individual that I recommend that you connect with. And finally, we have Andre Smith, go by Dre, and I highly recommend you connect with him as well. He's a director of sales at an organization called Cloud Masonry. He's also leading a Clubhouse group, which I'm going to have you connect. If you're not on Clubhouse, you need to get on Clubhouse and connect with this group, this club, this room, the rooms that we have in this group in our Clubhouse, man. It's just amazing stuff, and I'm grateful that I'm able to be a part of it, and Dre leads that. But anyways, these guys, and he's a former Salesforce employee, so it brings tons of wisdom and experience being in a tech world. They have some insights. I want you to listen to them. I want you to apply them. Dre, Anita, and Larry, the dream team. My goodness. And I don't think you all understand what I was trying to do in the background when I was trying to coordinate with all of you, because typically we just send out a Calendly link, but there's time zones and everyone, and I'm like, I'm going to make this work, dang it. This group has to come together, and you all were so gracious and were willing to work with me. I confirmed the time with Larry, and then all of a sudden I switched gears. It was like, can you do this time, this day? But you guys were very patient. I appreciate that, and I think this topic is merit, this discussion. So we are talking today about the diversity of a sales team and why this is so important and critical, especially right now. And I mean, there's so much to talk about here. So have at it. Why do we need to build a diverse sales team? Why now? And how to go about doing that? Any thoughts, guys?
Yeah, so I'll chime in right off the bat. If you don't have a diverse sales team, you're missing out on the insight that you need to work with the diverse buyers out there, right? So there's not just one type of buyer. You've got a diverse world of buyers, especially when you're selling technology, that's my background mainly, but it's just, there's so many people out there. They're different ideas. And if you've got a company that only has one type of person, you're missing out on that connection that you can have with so many different people. So we've got diverse buyers. We need to have diverse sellers.
Anita, you nailed it with the ability to capture the perspective of diverse buyers and be able to relate. I would also say we're driving for maximum outcomes. And it's not just important now, it's always important. But what we found, and you can look, I mean, that's why I'm in sales. You can look at the scoreboard when you look at teams that have diverse people with diverse backgrounds, they're proven, I don't have the stats on me, but they're proven to perform at a higher level. It sounds like you do, but essentially if you're not, you're limiting the outcomes, the positive outcomes that you can get. You're limiting the creativity, the flexibility, and really the top performance of your team. So if you decide that diversity isn't important, you're just missing out. And I'll pray for you, but essentially I'm on a mission to actually incorporate change because we need it.
Let me add to that. I think Larry, you brought up a really good point, right? I love sports, right? And to think back in the 40s, the NBA blocked Black players from joining the league, right? Now you've got 75 to 80% of the league is Black players, right? Same thing happened in MLB, right? What would professional sports be if they weren't, the owners and the general managers weren't open to diverse talent, right? So we talk about Latinx, we talk about Black people, right, and other ethnicities getting into the sports arena, the professional sports arena, and we completely dominate like literally all major sports, right? And so I would absolutely encourage any sales leader to look at their team and really have an internal thought to themselves, like, does my team look like the Minneapolis Lakers back in 1940 when it was all white guys? Or does my team look like the Los Angeles Lakers of the world and, Steph Curry and his squad, right? Like the really good teams that perform day in and day out, right? It's the same thing when you're thinking about sales, right? And I was fortunate enough to be brought on at Salesforce when I used to work there with a leader, a Black woman, Marianne Wolford, who gave me a shot. And when I got on her team, I looked at everyone who was on there and I'm like, man, like this is probably the most diverse team I've ever been on. And we completely crushed it, coming from all different backgrounds and just vibing off of each other. It is extremely important for you to have those different perspectives on your team in order to perform at the highest level. Just my take.
Yeah, and learn from each other, right? I think that's another thing that's so important to me. So women in technology sales for 20 some odd years, almost always, I was in the early years, I was the only woman in the room, only person of color in the room. And it's really overwhelming at some point. But what we found was I would go in and sell and they would learn when I newly went into a company, they'd learn that I had a different way of approaching customers. And I was very successful in it. And the people that were typically going out there with their more aggressive and uber professional type persona when they go to sell, they were not crushing it. And yet here's a person who goes in just who she is, right? And just laying it out there. And that person's getting so much more, not just success in the current sale, but they're getting customers for life at that point. So it's just I think women, I'll talk about that right now. Women are socialized very differently. And it just happens to be that the things that we're socialized to do really well work really great in sales. So it just happens to be that way. So why the heck not use it?
I'm going to go back to the stat. My team put something together. We have it as a download. But one of the points was diverse companies outperform the competitor and are 45% more likely to report increased market share. Those same companies are 7% more likely to report capturing new markets. So it comes down to it. You make more money when you have a diverse team.
Ball don't lie.
I was gonna say if you need another reason, I don't know what to tell you, but that one works if you're in sales.
But so we all know why this is now. We're hitting on this, but we all know the importance of it, and that you should do it. We all could agree on that. But why? We still look at it, and if you look at the stats right now, 78% of sales is made up of non-people, people, not of people of color. It's white, basically. Only that last 20%, and 10% are African American, and the remainder is a mixture. So why is this the case then? If we know this is so critical, what's going on?
Yeah, Dre talked about looking around at your team, and I apologize to interject here, but when you look at the managers and the leaders who have the power, and you look at their Rolodex, their Rolodex is homogeneous. If you didn't play lacrosse at Cornell, you're not going to be on my team.
Right.
I work at a company where we've got a strong Duke presence, and I didn't go to Duke. As you can see, I'm a Terp. So it's like, hey, we can get it in too. It's really having that openness. It's being open-minded. It's kind of a growth mindset, and being open that, hey, there's not just one way to have success. And it's being open to looking at other avenues where women, people of color, people that might not have even gone to college. I spoke to a young lady earlier today, doesn't have that piece of paper. Sharp as a tack. That's someone that I want on my team all day, every day. But some organizations say, nope, we're not about that life. Well, why? Yeah. Why? And you can give any kind of excuse, but it's just an excuse. It doesn't smell right. That's BS.
Leadership is extremely important when you're thinking about building a diverse team. So let's say if you're a VP of sales and you have 5 sales managers under your belt, does your team, again, I'll ask that question again, does your team look like the 1940s Minneapolis Lakers? Those managers, right? If they're all white, chances are it's going to trickle down, and your players, your AEs are going to be all white, right? And so to Larry's point, really, the Rolodex is important. Like, who do you know? And unfortunately, if most of the managers that I've come to work for and worked with, right, a lot of the Rolodexes are people that look like them, but the ones that are Black, Latina, Latino, those people have the Rolodex to actually go in and say, hey, like, this is part of my community. I can bring in some diverse talent, and we could, increase that pool within our organization, right? So leadership, it definitely comes from leadership. All of the leaders that I know are proactive, and they are intentional about diversity. Right. It's just something, and when you're in a leadership position, you have the power to actually bring someone up or bring someone in that that could produce at a high level. We're intentional. We're like, look, like I have to, think of, hey, how does my team look? I need them to be diverse. And that's why it starts at leadership. I think that's just to add on to that. It's very, very important for us to start looking at our leaders who are leading the teams in order to build out those diverse teams.
And companies, right? People that are leading companies. I mean, I look at job descriptions sometimes, and I'm sure there's no evil intent in these job descriptions, but you see something like, VP of sales reporting to the chairman of the board. Really? Chairman? Do we say that right now? And people don't think it. And you talk to these recruiters, they have no concept of what they're doing, but that exactly. And it's, there's unconscious bias, but there's also just this ability to perceive when you are a candidate and you're looking at this, subconsciously, you're going to see what that language is, and you're going to feel what that language is. Your hidden brain will catch it before even you will, but it's something we need to be conscientious of. And I think especially on recruiting efforts, it has to live in recruiting. Sales leaders, awesome. We hire, we manage them. But the people that are out there looking at the pool of candidates out there, they best be looking everywhere. They cannot just be looking at, Duke, for example. You can't just go to this university and recruit. You got to go to a bunch of them. You can't just go to one recruiting firm that happens to have people that are from a certain college or from a certain different background. You need to go out there and look at you can even look at organizations out there. So National Association of Women Sales Professionals is one that I work with. Recruit the heck out of that. You're going to get a lot of people of color and women in there. So it belongs at the CEO level. I think CEOs have to pause and ask themselves, am I getting the best of the best in this company? And if not, how the heck do I do it? And set your recruiters loose to go find the best people. Sometimes it's someone with a degree. Sometimes it's not. It's just a matter of, you can't read the label of the jar you're in. I love to say that. And if you are all the same people, you're all living in that same jar. Get someone else in here to take a look at what's happening, and you'll see it's innovation. Everything gets refreshed. It's a whole different world, and it's really sad when people don't.
That's tough. That's tough to do. You made a great point there.
It's true.
That's tough for me to look at the label of my own jar when I'm comfortable in my own house. You're telling me that I got to get out of my comfort zone? Come on, Cletus.
Right.
So you hit it, Dre, about intentionality. You hit it, Anita, about recruiting. I'm gonna throw a little R&R in there. Recruiting is super important, but now that we got them, how do we retain them? How do we make sure that we support and provide an environment that's going to be nurturing and supportive and make someone who feels like, where's Waldo? I am Waldo, that I actually feel a part of this team. And y'all make excellent points. This is real. This is the real deal, Holyfield. This is life and sales and business and leadership today for a lot of folks. I mean, I'm part of an initiative, Sales for the Culture, if you know what I mean. And we're talking about all these efforts of how do we get that exposure for middle school, high school, HBCUs, that tech sales is an avenue. If you don't see anyone in the role, you don't believe it. If I don't see anyone that looks like me playing ice hockey, I'm thinking ice hockey ain't for me. Maybe I can only play basketball and football.
That's exactly
but if I start to see PK Subban, a couple other brothers out there skating around, it's like, oh, shucks, I've been missing out. It's the same thing with tech sales. We need to see it in order to believe it.
Yeah, Anita, going back to this topic though, with that too, you work with the organization's National
Association of Women Sales Professionals.
What percentage of women are in tech sales?
I don't know about tech specifically, but I think 39% in general, based on a recent article I read in LinkedIn, which is actually a lot more than I technically thought it was going to be. So there has been some increase over the past year. I think it's like 10%. They're saying a decade, at least in that study. But yeah, it's about 39%. But you can do the math. I mean, the majority of sales now is tech sales in one way, shape, or form. So 39%.
So looking at the things what are some things that you all have seen, like all of us, we've all worked on different teams that has made that shift? Because I can tell you some of those teams I worked on was literally like a boys club, was like mostly guys. And I know we could have had some more, we need to broaden this panel, get more women on this as well. But you can hang with anybody. You don't care. You need to shoot.
It's like, you got me, you're good. I can count for two.
But how do what worked with this push for teams? What are some things that we could take and adopt and push to change the culture in our organization? And then something else that Dre said, as I thought about it, I think that some people just do crap because it was just it's just the easiest way, and just because it was. So let's go back to the Lakers. I'm sure some of those managers have probably been around, and a policy to a recruit from Duke or from University of Florida was just there when that was a case back in 1962. But right now that's different. How do we change those policies? So there's kind of two questions there, and give me something good.
So how do you change the policies internally? Are you asking how you change the policies in terms of helping these leaders not follow what has been for the last umpteen years? Is that
Is there some? I mean, I'm an individual contributor listening to this podcast. What can I do at my company to make a change right now? You can take your water sip. This is Aldi water, so advertising for Aldi.
Representing. I think one of the things that would work in that scenario is, if you're an individual contributor and you're seeing, you can kind of feel that there's not that diversity here. I was actually working with a client one time, and their entire executive team and the sales leaders were part of it. It was all women. I was a consultant. I was the only one in there. And at one point, I was talking about, my engagement would be over soon, and they're like, "Man, I'm really sad to see you go, but we don't have another woman's perspective in here." And also person of color, by the way. So you have to recognize it, and it's okay to say something about it. It's okay to go to your leader, or maybe go find somebody really good and bring them in and put them in front of your manager and explain why that person should have access to that role that maybe they wouldn't have had if they just read the job description. But, you have to hold people's hands and bring them in. And back to what we were talking about earlier, where's Waldo, Larry, it's true. Even if you do become, when that first person comes in or that second person comes in, it is hard. It's not over then. Just because you started to bring people in that are from different backgrounds, they're still just like two people in how many. And so this goes back to retention as well. You have to be transparent about it. Listen, we know you guys are in here. We are very inclusive. We're trying to get more. Bear with us. What can we do to make it better? Ask the people that you just brought in to help you with that effort. So, just bring people in. If you don't see your leaders doing it, you do it. You get referral. I mean, a lot of companies have a referral bonus, et cetera. Use it. Find somebody out there that's from a totally different background that you know will add value to your team.
Yeah, one of the things that within the sales community that we speak on quite frequently would be asking hard questions. And we usually focus that on the customer, like, hey, you have this methodology called the challenger sale, right? Like, challenging your customer to think differently about their business, right? And so you want to start asking, for proper discovery, you ask insightful questions to help your customer really think about their strategy, their processes, etc., so that you can unlock pain, blah, yada, 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 right? But that comes from asking hard questions that can, be a little bit tough for a customer to really think through. And I think that same strategy in terms of like asking hard questions to your customers, the same should hold true to your internal leadership. We should be asked as an AE, we should be asking our leadership hard questions about our culture, hard questions about the diverse talent on our teams, right? And I think, because if the data is there, if the data is there that you make more money, we make more money, we help more people, right? The buyers are diverse, so we will help more people as our team gets larger in terms of like more diversity, right? If the data is there, then it would behoove you not to ask the hard questions to your leadership about how the team looks, about representation within your team, both more women, more Black women, more Black people, period, more Latina women, right? The data is there. So I think that anyone that's going through this and you're really looking at your team and they're looking like all those white guys from back in the day, 1940s, the Lakers, then you have to speak up, right? Because, if they're not going to go with it, right, again, they're missing out on a huge opportunity to get better within themselves and the organization, even personally. So that's just my take on it.
You're spot on. You're spot on. Spot on. Communication, having the conversations, asking the questions, and then shutting up and listening. I think it comes down to care. And you talked about it, Dre, leadership. Do the leaders actually care? Because change is tough for all of us. I mean, I lost 23 pounds from December to December. I had to change my eating habits. Yeah, I'm trying to get that beach body.
Go you.
But essentially, I know I'm not supposed to eat fried chicken 5 out of 7 days, but saying ain't doing. I mean, here we got Bojangles. You say, Larry, what time is it? It's bow time all the time. So Dre, you talked about it, and you talked about it, Anita and Donald. I mean, we know what time it is, but essentially, do we care enough to actually take action? I think there's a saying, saying ain't doing, and your actions speak so loud, I can't hear what you're saying. So essentially, we've got to hold folks to task and hold them accountable and say, if you really care about it, then your actions should reflect it. If you don't, then you just need to zip it.
Well, and sometimes I love that. And sometimes I think that there's, subconsciously things that are going on that you can't necessarily touch. So we talk about discovery questions. I always advocate these high impact questions with customers that let you get to the emotion and do the same thing, because I can promise you, if there is a leader who is not actively hiring people that are different backgrounds or purposely not doing it, right? If they're purposely not doing it, there's some emotion behind there, typically something like fear or something of that nature. Ask the big question, start to hear what is it that's stopping them? Sometimes it could just be even like today, for example, now people are getting much more intense about DEI and leaders are starting to wake up. Well, one of the challenges they face now is if I go in here, I'm like so late to this game. I'm gonna have to admit that I haven't been doing this for so long. That is a fear. So you figure out how to help them through that. And I think that's when you really see results because people, change is hard, like you said. And the way we do it is by appealing to that emotion almost more than the logic.
Oh man, I think I love that point, and I think it's when it comes back down to everything is understanding human beings, right, and how we think and how we behave, and even if somebody does have VP in front of their name, that still doesn't mean that they don't feel that fear or feel that worry, or I mean, feel that they're going to have those implications. But if I can I help that person? And it's not so much as throwing rocks, but we just need to raise the voice in a way that people can hear. And once we have made enough, raise the voice enough, I hope that I think you're right. Like we've seen over the past year, a lot of organizations are willing at that point to say, I need help. I've had a couple of good friends who reached out to me who made mistakes, did things, put panels together, groups together that did not look diverse, but they were humble enough to say, DK, I goofed up, bro, and I should have done this better. And I'm like, thank you. That's great. I'm glad you recognized that. And we had a dialogue, had a discussion about what you can do to fix that. And sometimes people just need to have a conversation, but it doesn't necessarily mean, I think some of us though, is it our job to be to do that for everybody? And it's like, how much should someone figure that out on their own, to be adult enough or mature enough to look and see, well, my team don't look that good. So I got 1940 Lakers over here. I was joking. I think I'm gonna change the episode or the part that we put on LinkedIn. We're not the 1940s Lakers.
There you go. That's hilarious. I love it.
Love it.
But any other thoughts, as we come down to the wrap up this portion here, any other thoughts, any other ideas on building diverse sales teams and why? And also another stat that I'll show you too. There's a study done by Harvard Business Review back in 2013, and it shows that sellers who share the same ethnicity as their clients have 152% more.
152, baby.
152% more likely to understand that person's need.
That's right.
I'm telling you, when I sit down and talk to a Jamaican, like when I sold into the nursing home space and I go meet with them Jamaican women, bro, just put out the accent and start chatting.
There you go.
Chat like a yardie. Chat, we're gonna have some curry chicken and fried goat.
Oh, don't lie. 152.
Yeah, 152%. Well, people like people that are like them, right? Likability is an important part of persuasion, and people like people who are like them. If you think about, for example, higher ed sales, like someone selling tech into not even higher ed, even K through 12, you go in there and maybe you're in a community that's underserved, underrepresented, and they're just, it's a different culture in there. You really want that 1940s Lakers dude going over there to sell? I mean, how much credibility is that person going to have, or that Duke graduate? That's not a conversation that's going to go as smoothly as if you have people that have a diverse, and even if you don't have a diverse background necessarily, open-minded. And when you're living in a company that has so many people that are the same, it's hard, even if you are open-minded, to be open-minded, right? It kind of takes it out of you.
Yeah. I would wrap up with diversity it's life or death, whether your business, whether, I say life or death because it resonates with me, because back in the day when I was in college, back in the day, I actually had the chance to donate bone marrow to a young lady who was actually dying from acute myeloid leukemia. And on the bone marrow registry, Black people, if you're in need of a bone marrow transplant, you're 23%. You have a 23% chance of actually matching with someone to help you, to save you. If you're Hispanic or Latino, that number is more like 44%. white background is more like 77 to 80%, right? And so this whole concept of like diversity is very, very, very important. It's life or death. If you want to talk about from a financial perspective, you know, for a business, it is absolutely life or death. And even to a health perspective, right? So, you know, when I helped Be the Match try to include and register more people that look like me, more African Americans, more Hispanics to join the bone marrow registry, it was like, hey, we need to diversify our pool of donors, right? So this whole concept of diversity is extremely important, and I think thank you so much, Donald, for having this discussion with us, because you know it's more than just business. It goes way farther. It goes beyond that, and just to have this conversation at the top of everyone's mind is extremely important, especially in this day and age. So thanks for having us, for sure.
Dre, you hit it. Anita, you hit it. Life or death. I think it's right and wrong. And we often know what the right thing to do is, but now we're being called to task to doing it. I think Spike Lee said it, do the right thing. We can't be, I mean, it's 2021. We can't be having this conversation. We shouldn't be having this same conversation in 2022. And that's my fear. I want to encourage for us to continue having the conversation, but at some point, we got to turn those words into actions.
Yep.
I think the great philosopher, Mystical, said it best. Show me what you're working with. So that's the question that I ask in closing.
Oh, man, you're funny.
Use that. Can I borrow it?
That's hilarious. There's the gold microphone.
Hey, you know, and
I love that.
I was actually listening to a podcast. I think you all should check out, but Louder Than a Riot. If anybody checked it out yet, but
No, I haven't.
P, I think I'm trying to get Master P on my new show that we're launching. But then it's a tough one, but it's funny though, Mystical and hearing some of the things, those guys were true hustlers, man. My goodness.
We can have a whole conversation on.
Well, that's a whole
just
nother. Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
hey, Donald,
Yeah.
one thing I want to close, since my last one was really close. As a human being, I want to get as much as I can out of this universe, right? Like I want to learn everything, see everything, do everything. If I only look at one type of human being to do that with, I'm missing out on, I even know how much. So I think if we just take a step back and say, what am I losing by not doing the right thing?
Absolutely.
Bro, love that, Anita. Thank you.
Yeah,
Larry, thank you. Dre, thank you. If folks want to get in touch with you all, I know LinkedIn, we're going to put that in our show notes for sure, but anything that we could, take a second and just tell them where they can go and connect with you, buy your book or whatnot.
Yeah, so for me, it's LinkedIn. Yeah, for me, it's LinkedIn, and my book is called Beat the Bots. And if you can get that on Amazon, actually, that's the one that has all that stuff about questions and discovery and getting the emotions out. So it's a good place to read about that.
Awesome book. We used it in one of our giveaways at Christmas. It was great.
That's right. That's right.
Larry,
Okay.
how about you?
Best way to find me is Larry Long Jr. on LinkedIn. I got the smile for a mile, the face for radio. I'm trying to catch up to Anita. I'm working on a book right now. I don't have the title, but it's going to be hot.
That's awesome.
All right now. Yeah.
You call me.
LinkedIn
I'm
for
really
me.
good at those titles. You call me, Larry.
I'm going to take you up on that, Anita.
Yeah. I'm
Beat
good
the
at that
bots.
stuff.
I got this in
Beat
my
the bots.
cart right now.
How your humanity can future-proof your tech sales career.
Wait,
Yeah.
don't
So
move.
it's all about our people. It's all about tech sales, and
Where's
really actually all about being
Donald?
human.
Working on that manuscript.
Yay, look at you.
Yeah.
Donald. All right, I better be on a list to pre-read that, my friend.
Sell it like a mango.
Please.
So we're talking about
Oh, I love that.
some more deals, and we're going to use, like, if anyone been to the islands or speaking about Caribbean and diverse teams, but I see all these people when I go to Jamaica and visit, and growing up there as a kid, they're all selling the same exact thing, and it's like some people are thriving. I'm like, how can that same mango from the same area be sold and by this other person make money and the other person is selling it? And I look at it, I'm like, duh, it's the same thing we're doing here with software sales.
Right.
So
Yeah.
sell it like a mango.
I love it. I love that. Awesome.
All right, Dre, how about you, man?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, man. Find me, Andre Smith, on LinkedIn. Connect with me. I'm also on I'm also on Clubhouse. Got you guys on Clubhouse. Connect with me on Clubhouse. You know, we started up this thing called the Sales Club, which is awesome. It's already up to 2,000 people on there, and it's just good to see like other salespeople just like chopping it up about sales like in the middle of the night. I'm like, man, what are they talking about today? And it's, it's interesting. So like Clubhouse, I'm on Twitter, Commissioner Dre, but mostly LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn for sure.
Hey, I want to tell you all, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate it. I know our audience definitely did today, and you brought tons of value today to us.
Thank you.
Conversation keep going, and I hope you all would feel free to come back in the future and talk to me with some other future topics as well. So, but thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for touching this topic.
My goodness, Anita, Larry, and Dre, I highly recommend you go back and connect with them. You can find all of their information if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts. Just scroll down, click on the cover art, and you see all the details below that. But if you're watching this on TSC TV on YouTube, just scroll down as well. We got some information there, and I want you to get back and connect with these individuals on LinkedIn. All of them, every last one of them should be in your LinkedIn Rolodex. There should be people that you connect with and engage with because they're going to bring so much wisdom and so much insights. If you are not connected with me on LinkedIn, then fix that right now. Just go to LinkedIn and search Donald C. Kelly. I want to connect with you as well. Come on, man. We're friends. We're like family. You listen to me all the time. As always, I want you to check out our sponsors and take advantage of all the great things they have to offer. Look at their name popping up at the bottom of the screen. I want you to take advantage of some of those gifts that they're giving you and also take advantage of the free trial because we've negotiated these things for you. I want you to thrive. I want you to succeed. I want you to find more ideal customers. I want you to know what to say when you reach out to them. I want you to close more deals. But most importantly, I want you to go out each and every single day and do big things. Thanks so much for watching. Hey, thanks so much for taking the time to watch this video today. If you enjoyed the content, I ask you to go ahead and hit that like button, that thumbs up at the bottom right-hand corner. Also, to make sure to subscribe if you haven't done so already. This way, we'll keep you up to date with all the latest sales strategies, latest tools, and things that are going to help you to not only find more prospects, but to close more deals. Thanks so much.